Homelessness services are warning they will need to make very difficult choices about who to help and who to turn away unless the government increases support. Peak Body Homelessness Australia reports more children and families are sleeping in cars and couch surfing, with women and girls bearing the brunt of this serious crisis.
If you live in an Australian capital city and you earn less than $112,667 a year, I have some bad news for you. According to the latest 2026 housing data, you are now officially at risk of becoming part of what economists are beginning to call the working homeless. For decades, the Australian dream was built on a simple promise: work hard, play by the rules, and you'll be able to afford a roof over your head. As of January 2026, that promise no longer holds. The numbers have shifted from concerning to structurally impossible. We've all seen the reports on Sky and 9 News, but those headlines only show fragments of the story. Today, we're going beneath them.
Expecting all capital cities to see house and unit prices at fresh records, and we are also forecasting Sydney's median house price to hit just over $1.9 million by the end of next year, so that really does set the pathway for a $2 million median house price in Sydney by 2027.
I've reviewed population projections, housing supply data, rental market reports, and banking regulations that, when combined, point to the same conclusion. The truth is straightforward. The new minimum income required to live under a roof in Australia is now a 6-figure salary. If you're not there yet, the system isn't just failing you, it's quietly resorting you. Let's look at the data. The government's flagship housing promise is the 1.2 million home accord, a commitment to deliver 1.2 million new homes by 2029. On paper, it sounds ambitious. In practice, delivery is falling behind. Projects are delayed. Developers are shelving builds. Builders continue to exit the industry. Approvals do not equal completions, and right now, the number of homes being finished is not keeping pace with demand.
Well, housing supply around Australia is expected to crash to its lowest in more than a decade by 2026. It means the federal government will fail to reach its goal of building 1.2 million homes by mid-2029. Almost 80,000 new homes are tipped for completion in 2026. That's down 26% from 2023. Migration is outpacing the construction of new homes at a rate of almost 4-to-1. Planning bottlenecks, labour shortages, as well as material costs are driving that low supply.
Now add population growth. Net overseas migration is forecast to slow to around 260,000 people per year. That figure is often presented as relief. It isn't. We are still adding more people than we are building bedrooms. That imbalance is the single most important reason rents continue to rise. Now let's talk about the number that matters: $112,667. In housing economics, rental stress is defined as spending more than 30% of your gross income on housing. Based on current median rents across Australia's capital cities, an income of roughly $112,667 is now required to remain below that threshold. In Sydney, median rents have moved beyond $800 a week. In Melbourne, a typical house rents for around $580 a week, with apartments steadily closing the gap. This isn't a fringe issue. Teachers, nurses, tradies, and public servants earning $90,000 to $100,000 are increasingly unable to compete in rental markets dominated by higher income households. This is how a new category forms, not through collapse, but through arithmetic.
The streets of Brisbane's West End are where Rhiannon's housing options ran out. After leaving home at 17, couch surfing, share houses, and crisis accommodation, eventually there was only a footpath, where she stayed awake all night.
It's terrifying. The reason why I didn't sleep is because I didn't want to be attacked.
Her stay at a hostel wasn't any better. Some residents were twice her age, and she witnessed constant drug use. She didn't feel safe.
It is pretty scary. Everyone's just kind of not in a good space, and it's the last resort.
People with jobs, people with pay slips, people without secure housing. Now consider the credit environment. Inflation is easing, but borrowing costs are not. Interest rates are expected to remain elevated, which means financing pressure on landlords remains. Those costs are being passed through directly to tenants. If your income didn't rise materially this year, your housing costs absorb the difference. Next, migration policy. Several countries have recently been moved to evidence level 3 under updated visa settings. Publicly, this is framed as tightening. In practice, it is a repricing. Student visa fees now sit at $2,000. Entry barriers are higher, but population inflows continue, because migration is being used to support GDP growth. The housing supply constraint remains unchanged, and from February 1st, new APRA lending rules come into effect, limiting how much banks can lend relative to income. For first home buyers, this narrows borrowing capacity at precisely the moment when rents and prices remain elevated. None of this is accidental. Australia is entering 2026 with a housing system that increasingly rewards asset ownership and penalizes income alone. If you want to understand why it feels harder, this is why. So here's the question. Are you currently spending more than 30% of your income just to stay housed? Let me know in the comments. Because until we start dealing with the numbers, not the slogans, the Australian dream won't disappear. It will simply become inaccessible.